Mike, this is there's going to be a hand, but it's an etiquette call. So, but I'm going to put the hand up as well. So, Mike, you're up next. Hello.
Hey Bart, how's it going?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah, love the show, man. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. No problem.
Yeah, the hand is pretty basic. Kind of a non-event. Really, the main opponent here is the guy that's on the button. He was a fun guy to have in the game. He was real talkative, joking around, some good-natured trash talk, and giving a lot of action. So, a guy I wanted to have around and keep him happy. So it's a limp pot. We're playing 2-5. It's 2-5 nine-handed, no cap. It's a private game.
What region of the country are we talking about here? Or you can mention the state if you don't, I don't know if you want to.
It's somewhere in Tennessee.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right. So 2-5 limp pot, uncapped. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, I'm in the big blind. There's a few limpers. I check my option. I have 10-3 offsuit. I think there's like 5-6 players, something like that.
All right. So here's in the big blind, 10-3 off, like 5 limpers, hero checks. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
So there's like 25 or 30 in the pot. Flop comes out, Jack 8-7 rainbow.
Okay.
Checks around to the button.
Uh-huh.
He bets 15.
Yep.
I call with my gutter, and everybody else folds.
When I was looking over this one, Mike, that's a pretty optimistic call here with a bunch of people behind you, don't you think? 10-3
Yeah,
off on
no,
Jack 8-7.
absolutely, absolutely. I was kind of just giving some action and like, hey, if I bank, I might, win a big pot on this guy. He's been bluffing with total air and going nuts in a few
All right.
spots. So
So I'm gonna put the
15
pot right
bucks to see
around.
a turn.
I'm gonna put the pot right around 55 or 60. So your head's up against this sort of fun player on the button with the 10-3 off here on Jack 8-7 rainbow on the flop. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, and I'd won a couple big pots off him already. One where I just like called down with top pair that rivered into trips, and he was blasting off the whole way. So turn I thought was pretty good for me. It was another jack,
Okay.
and it goes check check.
Why would that be good for you? Just out of curious.
Just like I said, I called him down with top pair before, and maybe he would slow down this time. If he bet again, he's probably got something. I just fold easily. I'll put 15 bucks in. I'm not gonna put any more in there.
Well, oh, you mean good for you to get away from?
Yeah, get away from or maybe rip later.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that one thing that a lot of live players get a little bit confused about is when another card comes that pairs, like for example, top pair. It's actually less likely that your opponent actually has that holding. There's a weird override that happens in live poker though, where sometimes players will give credit when somebody bets again on this card, not thinking in the combinations, just more thinking, oh, the guy's betting again, he therefore has it. Of course, the problem with your hand is you have pretty very
Yeah,
little showdown value anyways. But okay, so that's again not the purpose of this here nor there. Jack comes check check. Okay, now we're at the river.
yeah. River is another 8, so it double pairs the board.
Okay, so the final board is Jack 8-7, Jack 8. So there's a pair of jacks and a pair of 8s out there with the 7 playing on the board. Hero has 10-3. Okay.
Yep. Previous streak going check check,
Right.
and like you said, board pairing. I'm like, well, this guy's probably got nothing, or he's trapping somehow. I decided to take a shot at this. I put $30 out as a bet, and the opponent calls pretty quickly.
Okay, so hero bets 30, button calls. I would just say that, I mean, I suppose you might want a hand. Obviously, an 8 is never folded, and we don't think he's going to have like a jack that gets checked through. The interesting things with these things here, though, too, Mike, is that a lot of times people don't pick this up. Like, your hand can sometimes win here. So whenever the board, this is kind of a subtle thing that gets lost on some people. Whenever the board double pairs that counterfeits what is bottom pair on the flop, if somebody were to have like a hand like 6-7 here, or like 5-7 that was like betting off, you win. Your 10 high wins. So the only thing that I would say is that like I don't know actually if I would bet here, because you'll see a lot of like ace highs and stuff call just because it's a double paired board. You might want to like bluff like, you know, Also you beat 9-7 too, by the way. I said 6-7. Yeah, 9-7. You chop against 10-7. You might want to like bluff against like queen 10, but you're beating like 9-6, five, you're beating some stuff even though so I actually might not bluff here at the end, but it is sometimes lost on people. But okay, so you go 30 and the button calls and you're like, shit, I'm screwed, right?
Yeah, I was thinking more like like a queen nine or king nine might not call or might fold
Right,
or
right, right.
whatever. But
Okay.
but yeah, so and then what happens after that all happens in the span of like 2 seconds, right?
Hmm.
So he calls really quickly. Usually I'll announce my hand or turn it over, even if it's a bluff. But this time I just was like, I don't think I win here. Wasn't thinking all the way through it. I just said, you win.
Okay. So you say you win. Okay.
I say, you win.
Hmm.
As he's flipping his cards over, I toss mine up in the air towards the middle. His hand is 9-7. So I do have the winning hand.
Okay. So let me just back this up because this is important for what. So when you say you win, right? You win. Okay. You toss your cards like sort of up, and then what did they just go like face down on the table?
They went face down the table,
Okay.
across the line, but clearly separated from
The
the
muck.
muck. The dealer had all the cards like in a pile, and then he had the flop right in front of
Right.
that.
Right. I can totally envision this. You say you win. You throw your hand in, right? The line, well, we'll talk about this because it's a private game too. Because, like I said, all these rules are not standardized. That's the other thing too. But the cards are not in the muck; they're just like there. Now, so they're just there. And now the guy turns over 9-7 because he thinks he has two pair, right? I mean,
Right.
I don't know if thought he was bluff catching with a 9. Probably not. He probably wasn't being able to read the board. I take it, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, he thought his two pair was good. He didn't notice the double pair.
Right.
I honestly didn't see it right away either.
Right.
So when he called really quickly is why I said, oh yeah, you probably win. You probably have something that beats me.
So you see the 9-7, and then I assume you're going dive in for your cards, right?
As soon as I see it,
Uh
I
huh.
think my cards, I did that thing where you kind of flip them up a little bit. And as soon as the cards landed, I grabbed them and flipped them over. So it was like all in the span of
Right.
like 2 seconds. I said, you win. Threw my cards. He flipped his over. I grabbed mine and flipped them up.
Right. Okay. So you grab it and you have the winner, right?
I do have the winning hand. I had the 10 kicker played.
What's this guy's reaction before I get into what I'm not going to tell you what I'll tell you what I think the ruling should be, but it's nowhere going to be what it might be across many rooms. What was the
Right.
guy's reaction?
At first, he didn't understand because, like you said, he hadn't really read the board, and I hadn't fully read it either until, that instant where I saw his hand and then I flipped it over. He was like, wait, what? You know, what's the hand? So the dealer was like, well, hey, there's two pair on the board. Your 7 doesn't play.
Right.
It's the
Right.
10.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then the dealer, you want me to tell you what the dealer did?
What did the dealer do?
So the dealer said, I have the winning hand, and he shipped me the chips. And then the guy starts like actually complaining, and he's a bit upset. He's like, the guy said, you win. Like he said that, he got to see my hand first. What's going on here? What's the deal? He was like clearly agitated and upset and not happy. And this was going on for like, I don't know, maybe a minute. Like the dealer dealing out the next hand already, and he's still kind of complaining and chirping a bit about it.
And this guy's like a really fun player, you said, right?
Yeah, no, real fun, like trash talking, but like in a good natured way.
I'll tell you what I would do in your spot, and same thing might have happened to me too, like where I grabbed just out of reflex. The pot was so small. I would either tell him, okay, let's just chop the pot, or I'll give you the river. You don't have to call the river bet or something like that, right? Because they're awarding you the pot. You can do whatever you want, right?
Right.
Yeah,
right.
That's what I would have done if I was in your spot. I don't know what you did, but
yeah, that's actually exactly what I did. Is that second thing you said? Like I said, he was still upset and talking, so I just said, "Hey, would it help if I gave you back the river bet, the $30?"
okay.
And dude says, "Hell yeah, it would." And so I handed him the $30, and we kind of just went on, and it kind of quieted the whole thing down. Didn't hear about it the whole rest of the time I was there, and everything was kind of back to being cool.
Yeah, I think some people are agreeing with that's some people saying chop the pot, give the pot back. So this is probably not as uncommon as people think. Right. What I find interesting about this, because this was a last minute ad, is that unless things have changed, over the last, like, in the very, very short term, and I don't think that they have, there is no standardization in like cash game rules like around the country. Now, you said you're playing in a private room too. I don't even know what the rule is in the TDA, meaning like old school thought here is that this is actually the dealer's fault, Mike. The dealers are actually supposed to be taught that when you throw your hand in like that, you're surrendering. And the first thing the dealer's supposed to do is take your hand and put it into the muck. Because I used to play, well, whenever the game used to go, it doesn't really go anymore. I played high stakes, Omaha high low, stud eight. So playing with a lot of guys that are older than me. And that was one of the things that they would get at the dealers about too. It wasn't quite as bad as people would think because they would throw new dealers in at the World Series in these games, have no idea how to deal the game. And we just all kind of learned after the first couple of years, like there's no point in getting mad at the dealers. They don't know the game. But one of the first things that these guys would chirp in would be like, listen, if someone mucks their hand, muck their hand. That's like one of the first things to do. So it's kind of on the dealer. He or she was supposed to muck your hand here, but they didn't. So is your hand live? Was your intention to fold? Sure. Now, the line doesn't mean anything in a lot of places. Sometimes it does in some places, but most of the places I play, the line is just a sort of a guide. Like I'll go back to California. Your hand probably would not be dead because they don't really like to get into intention of what somebody was going to do. Now, the fact that you said you win apparently doesn't mean anything either. We've gone through that a couple of times too.
Yeah.
So maybe there are some rooms where the fact that you said you win and you threw in your card, even though it's not touching the muck, if that guy called the floor guy over, maybe they would rule it like, oh, your hand's dead. Like I said, I don't even know if that's the case with the TDA. I just know that the proper dealer technique is to muck your hand, which she right? She didn't do. So it's kind of...
But whatever, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So it's kind of on him, but I think the resolution that you did was fair. Did anybody else have anything to say about this at the table?
Yeah, it sparked a little bit of conversation about like, yeah, what is the muck and like when is your hand dead, things like that. I will say that in the moment when there was some confusion, like after I flipped my hand over, I wasn't trying to argue that I should win.
Mm-hmm.
I was telling the other guy like, hey, I wasn't trying to pull a move or anything, and I said whatever the house rules, I'll defer to that. They ruled in my favor.
Okay, so they ruled in your favor. Right. And again, like I think in California, they would have, in most places that I played, and they would have actually ruled in your favor. I think it's a good thing what you did, especially, like I said, I mean, the only times that I wouldn't do these things is if I had some sort of vendetta against someone, which are usually is only going to be against like miserable regs that I think are really, really bad for the game that try to play like angles on me and stuff like that. Yet another reason too, and I know most people I think disagree with me, because I said usually like at the higher stakes, when someone says you're good, you win, you don't wait for the guy to roll. So for example, like you said you win, right? Your opponent doesn't wait for you to like roll over your hand. Now I know he exposed his hand anyways, but there's another reason why you don't wait for the guy once in a great while, even if it happens 1 out of 1,000 times, to sort of expose their hand from up front after they say you win. Is just once in a while you might have misread your hand. Now you didn't misread your hand, he misread his hand, but once in a while, even if it's 1 out of 1,000 times, the guy that said you win might have misread his hand. You don't want him to expose it, right?
Right.
So from up front, but I think
I usually do also like flip my hand over even on a bluff, or at least announce like, hey, 10 high. I was just so convinced by his action of calling so quickly that I was beat. It kind of threw me off my normal rhythm. But yeah, and I got the clarification at this particular place that this dealer says that basically if the cards touch the muck, like they touch the pile of muck cards, or if he touches them, then he is the muck. That was kind of his ruling. There was another dealer that was there, happened to be playing, and he said in his game that if the cards touch the board or the muck, or if he touches them, they're dead. So yeah, there's obviously some variation, no standard rules, but now I know, and I try not to make that mistake again there.
Now, I will say that this guy degenerate. Now, this sounds like it could be written. I don't know if it is. You fold or announce that you're folding when facing a bet or a raise. You throw your hand away in a forward motion, causing another participant to act behind you. WSOP rules with a little squiggly, like meaning like he copied and pasted from the rule book. But there wasn't really any action. right afterwards. Like it was just that was it. That was the end. So it's kind of weird. And again, you're not playing by WSOP rules, neither a cash game. So I don't know. Interesting. Fair resolution. I appreciate the call. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and thank you, Bart.
All right.